1988, there were several women who were outstanding community leaders. Colleen Beavis, Marion Rogers, and Ann Murphy. All had been devoted for quite a long time to the welfare of children.
People always ask me when I got interested in community-wide work. And I became interested in schools the minute my first child went to school. I remember thinking, I want to know what she's learning and what's going on at the school. People tease me about that. I went over there the first day she enrolled, and I hardly left.
It seems to me I've wanted to help children all my life.
What they did was they really shepherded a whole army of people behind them. They provided guidance, advice, mentorship.
There were at that time a number of organizations that were devoted to one interest or another of children, but there was no central organization with the financial wherewithal to keep the effort moving and improving.
Pinellas was the one that really got us ignited over wanting to have what they had and be able to do it our way.
In the 1980s, Bob Graham, the governor of Florida, had formed a constituency at the state level to identify needs of children. He drew us together and he said, there really needs to be a constituency in every county talking about their needs at the local level. That constituency that really was representative of our community worked for over a year and identified really the foremost fact was there needs to be some authority that the groups can actually relate to and communicate the needs of children that span the community. There had been a law passed at the state level that said any county could form a board, but we hadn't taken advantage of that yet in our county. So we made that recommendation, and it meant that we had to draw up a resolution, take it before the Board of County Commissioners, ask them to put this on the ballot, and to take it to a public election.
What an exciting prospect it was that we might have stable funding for children's services in Hillsborough County.
Children didn't have lobbyists. And so this was a way of having money for children every year without having to lobby for it.
We had a responsibility, of course, after the county commission had approved our ordinance, that we had to go out and convince the community that this board would do a job for children that no one else was doing.
Marcia Mann, a professor at the University of South Florida, who is quite wise in matters political, and she agreed to be an advisor to us.
And I remember our most successful item was a folder that said, he's not running for office, vote for Joey. There was just a delight at voting for Joey, I think, rather than some state old office holder.
The constituency for children then took a lead role and working to really educate the public, educate the voters as to what this was all about. We knew that it was imposing an additional tax, but we also knew there was a real cause for that.
Remember distributing yard signs.
What I did was get Colleen and Marion Rogers to go around and speak to different groups of people. We wanted to create a groundswell of people to vote and get others to vote.
We did a lot of telephoning. GTE allowed us to go in the evenings to their offices. We did divided up telephones, divided up the voter lists, and just made calls.
It was like an election. It was as if we were all running for office that would develop a children's board that was be dominant and successful for children.
watching the television and seeing the votes roll in. And finally, it looked like we were edging, getting to just over 50%.
I can remember the celebration party at Marion Rogers' house when it looked like the referendum was going to pass. I'm not sure we knew for sure till the next morning, as I think back. It was close.
George Washington Junior High School was where we had our first office and began to to meet with some of the local leaders, both community advocates, community people, and local service providers. Hillsborough County government gave us a $50,000 loan to get the Children's Board up and running and established.
Most recently, I characterized the Children's Board as the investment banker for the community. The Children's Board does fund programs. We also do policy and advocacy work. We have a very strong communications arm, and the job of communications is to put the message out to the community about the needs of kids so that the community sees a return on investment.
Aside from the summer programs and the grant funding that we've received from the Children's Board, there have been some additional benefits. Probably the greatest benefit has been the staff development and staff training that we have received, and we've learned through that process, through the grant writing process, the importance of collaborating. We've literally broadened our scope and our comprehension of who we are.
Prior to the Children's Board, family support, family-driven care, family-driven services, system of care, however you want to call it, it wasn't there. The Children's Board has always been the one to pick up the pieces or to pick up the parts that weren't being funded or that weren't being covered. They weren't always in line saying they had to be the payer of last resort. They were there sometimes blazing the trail.
There are other parts of the state of Florida that don't have a Children's Board, and as a result, they don't have those resources. Their services are scattered, their services are incomplete. They are not bringing in new practices, new, better ways of doing things.
Our goal is to make Hillsborough County the best place to raise children in all of America.
I would advise any community that was interested in establishing a special taxing district like the Children's Board to go for it. I think it's one of the greatest assets to the Tampa Bay community that we have.